Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. First of all, before we start, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that watched my previous video here on the channel. That video is the first one that surpassed 1,000 views and I am so grateful and happy and excited for what's to come, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you all so much for making that happen. Now, with that said, for this video, I want to read some of my most anticipated releases for the second half of 2024, and by chance or not, by coincidence or not, all of these books came out during the month of September, and yesterday I have received 2 new releases and I am so excited to read these books. So in this video, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read these books and I will share my thoughts and feelings and opinions with you all, spoiler free obviously. Without any further ado, let me introduce the first book that I want to read in this video, and that is none other than Sally Rooney's Intermezzo. My only experience with Sally Rooney was with reading Normal People back in 2019, and that book was not my favorite. I remember thinking that the characters were a bit boring and annoying and I didn't really get the relationship between them. Also, the fact that Sally Rooney doesn't use quotation marks for the dialogue between the characters didn't really help me love Normal People, but 5 years have passed from 2019 and my literary taste and my thoughts and opinions have changed quite a lot from then. So I wanted to pick up this book to see if I like Sally Rooney now. The blurb for this one sounds really interesting to me because earlier in the year I have read a book with a similar concept to this one. I am talking about Blue Sisters by Coco Mellers. I have a stunning signed edition for this one with sprayed edges. I am very excited that I got a chance to buy this, but this book was a favorite of 2024, and the concept between this one and Intermezzo is familiar in the sense that our main characters are struggling with grief and how to process that grief in the aftermath of losing a loved one. In this one, we are following 3 of the sisters as they are trying to process their grief in the aftermath of losing their 4th sister. And in Intermezzo, from what I could see from the blurb, we are following 2 brothers who are dealing with grief in the aftermath of their dad's passing. So similar in concept in terms of sibling relationships and the grieving process. I am expecting some touching moments between these characters. I am expecting a lot of character growth and character depth. But the only way to know if that's true is to actually read the book. So I will go read now and I will update you as I go. Also, I do have the audiobook for this one as well. So I will probably keep switching between the print copy and the audiobook that I have. But yeah, that being said, let's get to reading. Did I just finish Sally Rooney's book in less than 9 hours? Yes. Yes, I did. And I'm gonna tell you all about it. But first, coffee. I enjoyed this book so much more than I thought I would. This was a surprise. I don't know why, but actually I do know why, because my experience in the past with normal people was not great. I kind of went into this one thinking that it's not going to be great for me personally, right? And this was such a surprise. This was an absolute joy to read. This is a masterpiece, as Julia Fox would say. This is sad and raw and emotional and horny and fresh and funny all in one. And I had a really great time reading this book. It's true that it deals with topics of anxiety and depression and a lot of unhealed trauma from childhood with grief, but all of those come together beautifully in this book. Structurally, this book is divided in 3 parts. Without giving away too much, in the first part of the book, we are just introduced to the characters and we start to understand who they are and what relationships they have with other people in their world. Sally Rooney would do this very interesting thing where she introduces the characters for the first couple of chapters, and then in some chapters afterwards, she would start the said chapter with only using the pronouns. For example, he said that, he did that, he da 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 da. And then you as a reader, even though you don't have their name on the page, you already know who that chapter is about because she was able to structure and to define these characters so well. When you as a reader are seeing on the page, like, he said this thing, you're like, oh, this is about Peter, or this is about Ivan, or this is such a Peter thing to do. And later on, when she uses the name of the character on the page, you're like, yeah, it makes sense that this is about this character because it makes sense for their story and how they are portrayed. I was so surprised with how much depth these characters have and how Sally Rooney deals with that. Okay, back to the structure of this book. So this is part 1. In part 2, we get to spend even more time with our characters and we start to understand why they are acting in the way that they do, how fragile their mental health is, and how much grief they had bottled up, especially Peter. For some reason, I just see myself in Peter so much from so many points of view that it's kind of concerning, to be honest. And then the third part is the redemption of the characters, where everything comes together and we are communicating what we feel and how hurt we are by some things that either happened in the past or either that other characters did or said. This was masterful. This was so good. After reading this book, I'm honestly considering to get back into the other books that Sally Rooney has. If you have a favorite Sally Rooney book other than this one, obviously, please let me know because I would like to read more from this author. Also, another thing that I didn't really expect with this book is the amount of sex scenes that we have. And even though they are explicit, as you would expect from an adult book, they don't feel staged, they don't feel forced. They feel like vulnerable, intimate moments between the characters. And something that I didn't really have the chance to see in literary fiction is safe exploration of kinks. This book has that as well, so if that sounds interesting to you, maybe give this one a go. But yeah, this is my experience with reading Intermezzo. As I said, I loved this book so much. I'm very happy that I decided to give Sally Rooney another shot because this and Blue Sisters are like up here for me in terms of books that I read in 2024. My first most anticipated release was a complete success, and I am so happy with it. Now let's go to the other most anticipated book that I have for this video, and that is, to no one's surprise, Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. I adored The House in the Cerulean Sea when I read it back in 2020, I want to say. Yeah, I think it was 2020. And this is the sequel to that. I am scared because I know TJ Klune will not disappoint me, but in the same time, I'm scared to return to this world, mostly because I don't really remember that much from House in the Cerulean Sea, to be honest. Like, I remember the fact that we are dealing with this guy who works for the Ministry of Magical Youth, whatever, and he goes to inspect an orphanage. You have found family vibes. The kids are super funny and just like oblivious sometimes. You are dealing with a lot of queer relationships, which I really appreciated, and TJ Klune as a queer author, I feel like portrays that really, really well. I will see how this one compares to the first one. I'm very, very excited for this. I do not know anything about the synopsis for this one. I am going in fully blind. I hope this will pick up where The House in the Cerulean Sea left off, obviously, but also I hope that we will get a bit of a recap so that I can remember each kid's kind of background and what their powers are and so on. Let me get to reading, and I'm gonna see you later. I have finished The House in the Cerulean Sea. No, not The House in the Cerulean Sea. I have finished Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. And this book delivered on every front that I wanted to deliver. It's hard to tell you who my favorite character from this book is without giving any spoilers, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna tell you that this book is a must-read if you enjoyed The House in the Cerulean Sea. This picks up right where The House in the Cerulean Sea ended. We are reintroduced to the characters. So if you are like me and you don't necessarily remember each kid's powers and who they are and their background, you will still be able to understand what's happening in this book because we get a bit of a recap on our characters. The relationship between... Okay, this is going to be a spoiler for The House in the Cerulean Sea, so if you have not read that book and if you don't want to get spoiled, stop this video right now, go read it, and come back afterwards. But the relationship between Arthur and Linus, God, is so cute. They are so cute together. Something that I forgot from The House in the Cerulean Sea is how funny Lucy is. Lucy is so funny in this book. I laughed out loud so many times, and all of the kids are having funny moments, but Lucy, the literal Antichrist, he's so funny. He is so funny. Another thing that this book made me realize is that The House in the Cerulean Sea is a cozy fantasy. I don't know why, but in my mind, when I'm saying cozy fantasy, I'm thinking about Legends and Lattes, I'm thinking about The Very Secret Society of Regular Witches, and so on. I'm not necessarily thinking about The House in the Cerulean Sea, even though I completely adored that book when I read it. And I feel like that's because at that time, in 2020, that book was not marketed as cozy fantasy because we didn't have that term yet. It's kind of like the same thing with ACOTAR and the term romantasy. Back in 2015, 2016, when that book came out, we didn't have the romantasy umbrella to categorize it with, and first it was marketed as YA, which is not accurate. But yeah, if you want a cozy fantasy story and you have not read yet The House in the Cerulean Sea, definitely pick it up. I think TJ Klune will not let you down. This book was truly like going back home, as TJ Klune said in one of his videos for the promotion of this book. I laughed, I cried, I felt seen. This was it. This was it. That concludes this video. I am so happy that I read these two books specifically in this video, because lately I feel like I read some books that didn't really spark any joy and I felt kind of indifferent towards, and these books got me back on track, got me really excited, which is something that I am very grateful for. If you read any of these books, please let me know what you thought about them, or if not, please let me know what is or what was your most anticipated 2024 release, if you read it, if you liked it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will probably see you in the next one. Bye everyone!